What is up? What is up? It's that time. It is the Etoft21sports Show. Welcome to episode 2. Thank you for everyone tuning in for the first time. Thank you for those who were here last week. Motto of the show is really simple. 30 minutes, we're going to try to give you a horse racing winner. I'm going to tell you a fantasy football player to avoid. And we're going to be giving you some sports betting information. I'm really excited. My boy, Mike, at GCG_wins from Twitter. He hosts the Coastal Clovers podcast. They did a phenomenal breakdown of Conference USA yesterday. Him and I are going to be breaking down the AFC West. Really looking forward to that. So let's jump right into it. Let's have my boy Gino come on. Gino's going to tell you what bet to lock in at Colonial Downs tomorrow.
This week's horse racing best bet for Eric and everyone watching all of Eric's great content out there. We're going to head on over to Colonial Downs for Wednesday. We're going to take a look at race number 7, and we're going to look at the number 7 there. That is Kazillion. So we've got a group of maiden special weights going. They're going to be going 5.5 furlongs on the turf course. What's nice about this particular group of 2-year-old fillies, the only horse that's ever gone 5.5 on the turf is Kazillion. So she has a race of experience over a surface that nobody else in here has. That was a very good effort too. She had a slowish start that day. She was drawn down towards the inside. Early on, she was 8th, 9th. She was inside. She was about 8 lengths off. And she had to back up because she had some traffic trouble inside. In front of her, horses were kind of slowing up, and she had to take up and just wait to start her run. Once she started her run, she really closed very well. She finished 4th that day. The winner of that race was a horse named Love Reigns. The winner won by 9 3/4 lengths. So when you look down and you see that Kazillion was well defeated, it's not quite as bad when you know that the winner was an easy winner and Kazillion was right in contention with the rest of the field. So we've already seen the 7th place finisher from that race come out to win their next start. They won a maiden special weight at Churchill. That shows me the race was live. So we've got a filly who's already got a race of experience. She ran deceivingly well. That race came back strong. Now she's been off for a couple months. How does this barn do with horses that are off for this period of time? Actually very well. When they have a 61 to 180 day layoff, this barn wins at around 11%. They actually have a positive ROI at $2.26 for every $2 that you bet. And that's because they've actually popped with a 52 to 1 winner coming off a little bit of a layoff like this. So when I'm looking at races, I'm not usually looking at one small angle. I like to find 3 or 4 things about a horse to make me really, really like them. Let's go to Kazillion today.
Thank you for my boy Gino coming on. Guys, if you don't like me, Gino's the guy to blame. He's the guy that got me into all this podcasting, all this live stream stuff. Shoot him a DM at Gino Bacala on Twitter because he's the guy why I am here. Now we're going to shift our attention to the fantasy football spotlight. One of the players that closed last year's fantasy football season on a storm was Detroit Lions' Amon-Ra St. Brown. According to Fantasy Football Pros, St. Brown is being drafted in the 5th round of fantasy football drafts, but I'm not going to be drafting him this year. If you look at St. Brown's production for last season, he finished with 119 targets, 90 receptions, and 4 touchdowns, which is great. But as I stated before, he finished the season great. Why is that? TJ Hawkinson got hurt, missed the last 5 games of the season. If you look at St. Brown's production before Hawkinson got hurt, he averaged 5.9 targets per game, had 438 yards, and only 1 TD. The last 5 games, Hawkinson's hurt, not playing. St. Brown's targets went up to an insane 11 per game, had 474 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Obviously, the targets that Hawkinson were getting were going to St. Brown, thus the uptick in production. With Hawkinson coming back, the Lions only having 37 abandoned targets and adding Jamison Williams from Alabama in the draft and signing DJ Shark, it's really unrealistic that St. Brown's going to have as much production as he did last year. So that is why Mr. St. Brown is in the fantasy football spotlight of what player not to target. Now I'm really excited. We have a first timer. As I said, Mike at GCG_wins from Twitter is coming on. Mike, how you doing today, my friend?
What's going on, man? What an honor to be on the second inaugural show. I love it, man. I love everything you do. You put out winners left and right. And Gino, what a smooth operator, man, huh?
Gino is smooth, man. He last week he was dressed up in some 4th of July gear. He's a smooth cat, man. Gino is a smooth cat. But you know what? We're not here to talk about Gino's fashion game, man. We're here to talk about the AFC West. And in my eyes, this is going to be a phenomenal division. I'm really looking forward to it. First team we're going to dive into, Denver Broncos. Last year, they were 7-11 to win the Super Bowl. They are plus 2,000 to win the AFC, plus 900, AFC West plus 260. Over under is 10. Key additions, obviously they're bringing in Russell Wilson, which everyone is talking about. Billy Turner from the Packers, he's going to start at right tackle. DJ Jones to help the defensive front. Randy Gregory to add the pass rush. Alex Singleton. But they did lose Noah Fant and Shelby Harris, who is an insanely underrated pass rusher. What do you think of the Denver Broncos this year, my friend?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I do like the coaching hire, Nathaniel Hackett. I love that. This guy has a history of building an offense that works and using the run game to do it. Now, with the Packers, it was a little different because obviously you had Aaron Rodgers. You got to let Aaron Rodgers eat, right? But this guy took the Jacksonville Jaguars. He took them up to having the best rushing offense in the whole league or in the AFC and took the Jags to the AFC Championship, basically. So, I mean, this is a guy I have some confidence in. I think he's going to let Russ cook a little bit. But you got Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams out there. They rushed for over 1,800 yards and 17 touchdowns last year. The O-line's a little suspect, but I think he's got a lot to work with on this offense. And I think Russ is actually getting a little undersold this year in this division.
You kind of hit the nail on the head with Russ coming in. The main thing, which I think it's going to do, and I found this stat really interesting, the Broncos faced the 5th most stacked boxes in the league last year, which means they bring the safeties down for those watching. When you have an experienced quarterback like Russ back there, he's going to be able to audible out of that, and that's going to open up the passing game. By opening up the passing game, that's going to open up the running game. That's why this team is really interesting to me. In the terms of the backfield, I'm team Javonte. Are you team Javonte or team Melvin?
I am. I don't think it should be so much a 50-50 split. I think Javonte can add a lot more, and then you bring Melvin in to pound the rock, wear defenses down a little bit. But I don't like the 50-50 split. I like Javonte in the passing game. I like Javonte to get, to the outside and break things loose. I think he brings a lot more to the table. And then you just use Melvin to pound the rock and wear some guys down.
And you mentioned the offensive line, and, this is our first time working together. You may not know this about me. I love offensive line. Mm-hmm. I love offensive line coaches. They hired Butch Berry to be the offensive line coach. Butch Berry is a disciple of arguably the greatest offensive line coach in the history, my boy Rick Dennison. This guy is absolutely insane. And for those who don't know, in a Rick Dennison running game, Isaiah Crowell, yes, I said Isaiah Crowell for the Jets, I think it was 2014, 2013, somewhere around then, before he tore his ACL, he was leading the NFL in rushing. So what the blocking schemes that Dennison's able to design are insane. If Barry has any of that, I really feel that this running game can click. But they are kind of young, which does have me a little bit concerned with them changing, because they're going to be changing to a power zone combo now from straight zone. So I'm a little worried about that. In terms of their season, real quick. So I've been getting into the Pythagorean win totals. That is points for over, points for plus points against times the game 17. Now, historically speaking, this kind of tells you if a team overachieved or underachieved. They're 7-11, as we said last year. Their Pythagorean win total was 8.84. So they kind of underachieved last year. But I kind of feel we're seeing an uptick in that 10.5 because Russ is there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that tells you that Vegas is a little smarter than most of the talking heads up there. That I keep seeing these lists with the top quarterbacks in the league, and Russ he's coming in at 8 or 9. I think people are somehow forgetting what this man can do. I like Justin Herbert. I like Pat Mahomes. I would rank Pat Mahomes above him, but a lot of these guys, especially in this division, I got to see it before I just put these guys above him. Russ, I'm not comparing him directly to Tom Brady, but he has that Tom Brady factor of this man can win you games. He is not the most athletic guy on the field at any given time. He can, however, extend plays. make big plays, sometimes take some sacks. This division got some edge rushers. That is going to be a concern out there. But, man, I think the things that Russ brings to the table, it's worth up in the win total just alone, just him in my mind, outside of everything else that they did.
And it's crazy to think because what the Rams did last year was kind of change the way teams built a team. If the Rams don't win the Super Bowl, do the Broncos make this trade?
Probably not. I mean, I don't know how many years they could have stuck and just looked at those guys being quarterback, Drew Lock and just the long years. I mean, this is the 5th straight losing season they've had in a row. That's the first time that's happened since the 60s and 70s. I don't know how long they could have kept going with these guys and been able to look at themselves in the mirror. They had to do something. Yep. They made a little bit at Rodgers. He does his flirty little thing every offseason where he teases the Packers like he's going to go. But, I mean, there's nothing they could have done better than this. They nailed it. They hit it on the head. I mean, it's great.
And I don't think Isaiah Crowell was a stud, respect to my boy John, but, he did have a magical year that one year. Let's kind of look at their schedule a little bit. And I really kind of feel this first kind of like 5 games, we're going to kind of see like what their schedule is. And call me crazy, could they go 5-0 to start? At Seattle, home against Houston, home against San Francisco, who we don't know who's playing quarterback, at Vegas. And then the key thing is they play the Colts, but it's on a short week. And we've seen teams, when they go on the road, struggle on the short week. Am I crazy to think this team could go 5-0 before that Monday night game at the Chargers?
Absolutely not, because, I mean, you could pretty much guarantee they're taking the first 2. Houston has no shot. Russ is taking it to Seattle. I don't care that it's out there with the 11th or the 12th man. Doesn't matter. They got I mean, what Geno Smith is back there still. What's happening? Yeah. So, I mean, they're 2-0 to start. San Fran, you addressed it. They don't even know what they're doing at quarterback. And I'm not going to trust the Raiders until I see it get going. That team, we'll get to it, man. But I'm not trusting that team yet. So I love that they get Indy at home there too. That's I mean, if they're rolling already, I count that up as a win.
Now, this is what I like to do in schedules, and I've listened to your stuff. I know you like to do it too. You like to circle spots. Okay. Mm-hmm. You like to circle spots. Now, I have the Monday night game, week 6 circled, because if they're 5-0 going into the Chargers, I can really see the Chargers winning that game. If they're 5-0, there's going to be value fading them.
Yeah, absolutely. The dangerous thing about the Chargers, and I was going to save this talking point for them, but they don't have a home field advantage basically at all. So, I never fear a road game against the Chargers, but man, they do love to play spoiler. They love to lose games they shouldn't, win games they shouldn't. So they're a very weird team. I could absolutely see the value in that game right there.
And then I know, again, I come up with crazy stuff. Kind of depending on that game, hypothetically, they beat the Chargers. They're 6-0. I'm fading them hosting the Jets, man. Well, no, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like, because right there, they're 6-0. You got to figure the Jets will probably have 0-1 win there. That line's going to be over 7. Over 7. You got to, even though Zach Wilson is hanging out with his former teammate's mom, we'll get to that later, but over 7, if I'm getting the Jets over 7, I feel I have to take it there.
Yeah, I've felt that way quite a few times last year, thinking like it's got to happen here. But I do expect some improvement from the Jets, so hopefully they will be a little feistier. And I mean, it's going to come down. I mean, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. You got a new head coach, which, okay, who knows how he's going to handle that particular spot where it could be a sleepy game. But you also have Russ, who's going to be hungry. So that's going to be an interesting spot. I mean, you're right. It's definitely going to be well above 7.
There's going to be value. And as bettors, that's what we're kind of looking at. But the other key is, and their win total is 10. You look at, let's go to week 13. At Baltimore, much improved. At Kansas City, who always tough there. Arizona, don't really know what we're going to get. At the defending Super Bowl champion Rams, at KC, and then hosting the Chargers. Over under is 10. What number do they have to be at week 13 to have a realistic chance, of hitting this over?
Well, I think they definitely need to get off to that hot start we were talking about. I would say, I mean, like you said, we don't know what we're going to get out of Arizona. I think if this team's rolling at that point, that could be a very winnable game. Kyler Murray is not something I'm drastically afraid of. Cliff Kingsbury, like I don't fear Arizona as much as I probably should, but they are like a regular season team. But I mean, if this team's rolling and you're bringing that team up from the plains of Arizona and putting them in the elevation at Mile High, I think that's a winnable game. So that's one you could get. The back-to-back road trip there with the Rams and KC, that sucks there. But if you've already lost the game at LA against the Chargers, I think you got a pretty good shot at taking it at home against them there too. So I see a couple spots there where you can get wins. It's going to be all about the division for this team, and most of these teams in this division. You got to go 500 or better.
I am so looking forward to this division. I mean, like, this division is going to be stacked, and we're coming to a team. And I'll tell you what, I locked this team in at 24-1 right after the Super Bowl. Right now, they're at 10-1. I feel there's no value betting them at 10-1. And we're talking about I almost said San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers. They're 9-8 last year. Super Bowl right now, they're 10-1. AFC plus 600, AFC West plus 225. Over unders 10.5. Their key additions, Gerald Everett, and then they really went on this defense. Khalil Mack, edge rusher, J.C. Jackson, cornerback, Bryce Callahan, a nickel quarterback, Sebastian Joseph J, defensive tackle, Austin Johnson, defensive tackle. So they really put some effort in the defense. They brought in Zion Johnson to help the offensive line, drafted a backup in Isaiah Spiller. My first question before we start breaking down this, I locked them in at 24-1. But they're at 10-1 now. I feel you can't bet them.
There's no chance in hell I'm betting the Los Angeles Chargers to win the Super Bowl at 10-1. I mean, not happening.
There's this. What are your thoughts about the Chargers?
My thoughts are that this organization is pretty damn well cursed. I've bought in on the Chargers so many years and regretted it instantly. The most recent one I could think of, like Hunter Henry, went down like week 3. Like, it just happens every year with this team. Somebody gets hurt. Now, I do like that Austin Eckler has Isaiah Spiller to give him some rest. I think Austin Eckler is just the kind of back that's an injury waiting to happen. So I really like that draft pick. I really liked building up the line. I like what they did on defense, except for the one thing I will point out is this team was abysmal against the run last year, and I really don't think they addressed that. And that's a concern for me. I don't think you could be an elite NFL team if you can't stop the run.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure is going to be on, Joseph Day and Austin Johnson to get it in the interior, because they do have 2 elite pass rushers in Bosa, if he can stay healthy, because Bosa does have a history of getting hurt, and Khalil Mack. Are they going to be able to get in and to get to the quarterback to make him unsettle? Back 4, I mean, everyone forgets they still have Derwin James just kind of lurking back there. Everyone forgets about him. They have Callahan, Asante Samuel, brought in J.C. Jackson. Back 4 is going to be great, but they made one of the sneakiest hires that I absolutely love, and I'm going to sound like a broken record because it's an offensive line coach. They hired Brandon Nugent. Now, let me tell you about Mr. Nugent. He was with the Saints from 2017 to 2021. They allowed the 4th fewest sacks during that time and averaged 142 yards. I think we're setting up for for New Orleans West right now with these hires they're making, bringing in the old offensive line coach, bringing in the quarterback coach. I think this offense with Herbert, Allen, Williams, Everett, Palmer, the young wide receiver, Austin Eckler. I think this offense has the potential to be like what the Saints were during Breeze's heyday.
I agree. I'm getting pretty excited about this offense. I don't think there's much argument that this offense isn't going to be one of the best in the NFL. I was kind of surprised. I kind of expected them to go out and get a receiver that's like a real big deep threat, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I see Justin Herbert, who has one of the strongest arms in the NFL, and you don't have that. You have some guys that all kind of seem the same to me. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, even Samuel a little bit. They're all physical, big guys, but they're not your burners. And I was a little surprised to not see them go grab one. So that's the only critique I could have there. But I think other than that, this offense is just primed. I loved adding Zion Johnson. I love that ad from Boston College. That's huge.
And you think about it, they got him this year. Last year, they drafted Slater, the kid from Northwestern. They got Lindsey, arguably the best center in the game. They're building that front, and they understand they need to protect Herbert. If they can keep Herbert on the standing up, I think this team has a legit shot to win it all. I know their defense. I understand they gave up the third most rushing yards, but if Staley is as smart as everyone says he is, I think he's going to figure out what to do.
I agree. I really love this team to be like a regular season warrior this year. I love the over 10.5, even with the juice. I mean, it is up there, but and I really like I like them to win the division this year. I know it's a tough division, but the odds aren't insane. I mean, plus 225, but I like them to get it done. I like this team as a regular season warrior here.
I have them at 11-6. With 11-6, I have them winning it. Let's just kind of take a look at their schedule right off the bat, man. You know, they're opening up, hosting the Raiders. That's who knocked them out. This is a hammer spot for me, but the number's at 3.5. I absolutely hate this number. I may do a first half bet or look to get it live, but I think they completely dominate the Raiders. I was hoping for a 3. I can't bet it at 3.5.
I like with the amount of consistency that they have coming back and the amount of just new things that the Raiders have. I definitely like hammering that spot too. I think I even feel confident at the 3.5, to be honest.
I mean, my tradition, like no other, is to bet the Lions and the Texans week 1. I want to limit my exposure. So week 2, short week, going to Kansas City. We mentioned it before. Teams historically going on the road on the short week tend to struggle. I have that as a loss. Then they have Jacksonville and Houston. I have those as 2 winnable games. And then it's an interesting game against Cleveland. And this is something we need to monitor. You mentioned how bad they were last year against the run. Cleveland, best rushing attack. You are going out east, playing a good team that can run the ball. Even if Brissett is at the quarterback, we'll get a better number. They can't stop the run. We have to take the Browns there, right?
It's all going to depend for me on what's going on. I mean, it is a little easier to stop the run when you could stack the box, when you don't have to fear the quarterback. And I'm from about 45 minutes away from Cleveland. I know the Browns history inside and out. What's going on out there is the most Cleveland Browns thing I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe it. I don't think if you have Brissett, I think you could stack the box. I think you could stop the run and focus on that. So I'm not sweating Cleveland too much in that spot.
Now, my buddy Sterling, I mean, he kind of hit in the head. There's so much hype around each team that 2 of these teams are going to disappoint. I mean, that hits the nail on the head. That basically sums up this division in a nutshell. After that, they play Denver, play Seattle, go into the bye. I mean, the one thing that kind of stood out about my schedule, and it doesn't really happen until their schedule doesn't really happen to the end. They really don't have any tough games, like bunches of tough games like we saw with the Broncos. Their only real tough batch is week 16 at the Colts, week 17 hosting the Rams, and then week 18 at the Broncos. Other than that, and the week 10, week 11, San Francisco, KC, the schedule gods were pretty lucky with them.
Yeah. I mean, they really were. I like this schedule. That's another reason I was kind of alluding. I really like this team for the regular season. I like this team to be one of the best teams in the regular season. I like this schedule. I mean, you're bringing Miami and Tennessee all the way cross country out there. I think those are some very winnable games. That end stretch that you're talking about, I don't like traveling to Indy, and then you got to come home and play the Rams. And I mean, let's face it, it's California.
Yeah.
they're all Rams fans now. There are no Chargers fans. Rams won the Super Bowl. It's, that's who they're going to root for. So I think that's a pretty damn tough stretch right there. But this schedule has a lot of favorable things going on. So
now we have an interesting question in the comments. Herbert MVP 10-1.
I like that 10-1 a lot better than the Chargers to win the Super Bowl. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, I feel if you can get 10-1 at Herbert, I mean, you got to take it right now, because if they go off, like hypothetically, let's say they do on that Thursday game, they do win it at Kansas City, that's going to plummet down to 5-6-1 right off the bat. So if you could knock that in at 10-1, I agree with Mike 100%. Now let's going to go to, you know what? I've made some Raiders friends in the last couple of weeks, and I'm sorry. I'm just going to say I'm sorry right now. 28-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 1,800 to win the AFC, plus 575 to win the AFC West, over under 8.5. They bring in Devontae Adams, Chandler Jones, Roxy Yim, who is one of PFF's highest graded cornerbacks. I think that's kind of a sneaky good addition, but they did lose Njoku, the pass rusher, Casey Hayward, the DB, Zay Jones, who is very good in the vertical passing game, and Solomon Thomas. What are your thoughts on this Raiders? Because I think you and I are going to be in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, Sterling Evans said it. He said there's going to be two teams that are massively disappointing, and I would pick this. I mean, it's probably the obvious one, but I think they're going to be it. I mean, I think McDaniels has a lot of potential as a head coach. I think he's probably matured a lot, as you would expect under Bill Belichick for so long, but this is an organization that can make you relapse real quick. And McDaniels has had a history of some dramatics. This organization's had a history of some dramatics. Even the Kaepernick thing, you bring him in for a workout for some reason, you get everybody all hyped up, say how great it was, and then even like Warren Sapp comes out and says like it was a trash workout, like he's been told one of the worst he's ever seen. Just things like that are very Raiders things to do. Hiring John Gruden was a very Raiders thing to do. So I think there's a lot of potential here, and I think McDaniels has a lot of pieces on offense that it's going to get interesting. He's going to have a lot to do. However, I think Derek Carr is probably the worst quarterback in the conference. I mean, that's not a stretch to say, really, but I think it's by a pretty wide margin. And I worry about the defense. I think the back end is going to be helped by the pass rush, but if you're playing a team with a good O-line like both the Chiefs and the Chargers have, I think you're going to be able to burn them through the air a little bit.
Let's play guess the number. Like I mentioned the Pythagorean win total before, and that's kind of the bar to kind of see if a team overachieved and underachieved. Raiders were 10-7 last year. Can you guess what their Pythagorean win total was?
Oh, God. I would say they had to have overachieved by at least 3 wins, possibly 4.
You are so close. Their Pythagorean win total was 7.34. Almost they overachieved by 3 wins. Now, historically speaking, teams that overachieve by 1 or more have a fall, and that you bet the under. They almost achieved by over 3. This team, with what they did last year, and give credit where credit is due to that coaching staff, that was absolutely insane. But I'm worried about their offensive line because they are changing blocking schemes. Their best offensive lineman, Denzel Good, tore his ACL last year. And we all know when like a big guy suffers an injury like this, his first year back, they tend to struggle. I'm a little worried about that. I don't know what we're going to get from Josh McDaniels. I really don't know. It's hard for me to trust this guy in the history of the Belichick assistant struggling. And on top of that, Devontae Adams, hell of a player. He's at the age where wide receivers start to drop. Chandler Jones, hell of a pass rusher. He's at the age where pass rushers start to drop. I'm just a little bit worried about that. I really feel that this team is going to struggle. I have them at 6-11. I bet the under 8.5, and I really like this a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call. Another thing, when you get into that defense, like I think Patrick Graham it makes sense. That's a good hire for them on the defense. He spent some time with McDaniels out there in New England. He spent some time with Chandler Jones actually, but it's the third different defensive coordinator they've had in 3 years. Now they're changing from a 4-3 to a base 3-4. That's going to be a learning curve. this isn't the year. This isn't the division. You want to be learning a whole new scheme on defense. It's gonna cause some headaches. They're gonna drop some games here, and I don't like this team to go over 8.5. It's one of my favorite unders I've seen.
I
so
love
far.
it. And Leo, this is hit it in the head. Raiders luck will run out and they'll finish under 500. I have them at 6-11. Josh McDaniels is a product of Tom Brady, which I could see. Let's jump into their schedule.
Yeah, you got to be careful though. He's from that area. He has like a Tom Brady.
He could have a little bias.
Yeah.
He could have a little bias. You just kind of take a look at this. They could easily be 0-5 going into the bye at the Chargers. You know, we mentioned it. We really don't know what we're going to get from the Cardinals yet. There's this whole situation with Murray and everything. At Tennessee, always a tough place to play. Hosting Denver, then at KC. I think best case scenario, they get 1 to 2 wins there.
Yeah, 2's the absolute ceiling for that stretch right there.
And then they come out of the bye, and then out of the bye, 4 of the next 6 are on the road. I mean, these guys just have a absolute brutal schedule, but there is a sneaky spot, a real sneaky spot. November 6th, week 9 at the Jaguars. Second game in a row. It's going to be hot and humid, early kick game, Colts on deck. I think there could be some value there betting the Jaguars because I think the Jaguars, because this is going to be the first year Trevor Lawrence actually gets professional coaching. I think they're going to be a team as the season progresses. They're going to get better. I think that's a great spot to fade them.
100%. That is my take on the Jaguars this year. Is I'm going to be looking to bet them as the season goes on. They have a real head coach now. I'm really excited about the Jags to see. They're not going to be good. We all know that, but I think they're going to progress a lot. And I think Lawrence does have a lot of talent. So that's perfectly said.
And then there's one other very, very sneaky spot. I'm going to look to fade them. November 27th, week 12, sandwich spot are us. The week before, they're at Denver. The week after, they're hosting the Chargers. You have to go up to lonely Seattle. And I think we can both agree Seattle's going to be a team that gets better as the season goes on.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's still enough left in that locker room where they're going to have some leadership and they're going to try to progress. I don't think Seattle's going to be down for too many years now. So, especially you go at Denver and then at Seattle. That's 2 of the toughest road places you can go in the NFL. That's 2 of the toughest road trips you can make. So that's a great spot there.
Phenomenal spot. And like, you got to play the spot. You got to play the situation. That's what we always say. Yeah, that's kind of my take. I love the under 8.5 here. I am sorry, Raiders Nation. I absolutely love it. And you know what, Bobby? We are not locking Drew Lock because we are going to be hammering Seattle and that game. Last game right here, we're going to we're going to the Kansas City Chiefs, 12-5 last year. Super Bowl plus 950, AFC plus 600, AFC West plus 170, over under 10.5. Added Sky Moore, George Karlaftis, I suck at pronouncing names, Trent McDuffie, Juju Smith-Schuster, the law firm Valdez Scantling. They added Ronald Jones, which I think is going to be big for the running game. They lost Tyreek Hill, the Honey Badger, Tyree Matthew, Melvin Ingram, Kavarius Ward, which is huge for the defense, Darrell Williams, and DeMarcus Robinson. What do you think about the Kansas City Chiefs?
Back to the comment from Sterling Evans. There's 2 teams that are going to be massively disappointing. I think there's a really good chance that the Kansas City Chiefs are one of those 2 teams. I think you lost a lot in this offseason. I love their draft. I think they drafted phenomenally, and I would expect nothing less from a team, with Andy Reid at the helm. I would expect nothing less there. However, the defense was trash last year, and you lost 3 to 4 starters now.
Yeah,
it's not going to be any better. And you run a high up-tempo offense. You're moving. That defense is going to be on the field a lot. I mean, that's kind of why they look the way they do. However, this time, I don't really think they have enough names to make it even look halfway passable. I'm worried about this team, and we'll get into it when we get there, but this schedule's brutal.
this is my thought process on them. And I mentioned Ronald Jones. You mentioned their offensive line earlier. And we saw during the season how teams started to figure out playing against them with the two safety highs with Tyreek 100% and Kelsey 100%. Does Andy Reid sit back and say to himself, hey, I have a very good offensive line. I have a bigger back now in Ronald Jones. Do I go to running the ball more, thus taking pressure off my defense?
That is like the highlight of what I think about this team on offense and defense is that you have to be able to run the ball better. Edwards-Helaire has to be more consistent. Jones has to step up and be a good enough back to carry his weight in the NFL. They have to. If they don't run the ball better with the edge rushers, the pass rushers that the rest of this division have brought in with this tough schedule that they have, they're going to hurt.
And also you kind of hit in the head on defense. Rookie DBs tend to struggle. McDuffie's going to have to start. Rookie pass rushers, unless they're like elite talent, I'm talking Chase Young, I'm talking that level elite, tend to struggle. Nothing against the kid from Purdue they drafted, Karlaftis, but he's not at that level. He may be a good pass rusher, but not right now. You have rookies in high stress positions that tend to struggle. So I'm low on their defense. And we mentioned their secondary. They were the 8th team in blitz rate last year. And what does that mean? You put pressure on the DBs to cover for that 3.5 seconds. If you have a lost puppy in the rookie, I mean, it would how explosive these offenses are. I think this could be a long season in KC. And something else to remember. You know what? I like conspiracies. Last 4 years, who started as the play caller? Eric Bieniemy. Okay? But he had it taken away. Who did they hire as a offensive advisor? Matt Nagy. Could you see a scenario when the offense struggles because they don't have the weapons, Bieniemy gets relieved of the play calling duties, and Nagy comes back down and starts calling the plays?
I mean, I really, really, really hope not for their sake. I don't think there's many Matt Nagy guys out there. I'm definitely not one of them. This was something that Andy Reid was very, very big on that being like the reason he got fired from Philly. He always said when they asked him, it was because I stopped calling the plays on offense. He was very big on that being one of the things that I think he has like a little bit of Philly PTSD where, I mean, this man went there and won year after year after year after year and got fired because he couldn't get to the top of the mountain. Well, now he got to the top of the mountain with KC, but now when things are starting to not look so sunshine and rainbows for KC, I think he's getting a little sensitive, and I think that might be honestly why he's taking over a little bit.
Another great question coming in from Sterling. What are your expectations from Juju and MVS?
I think Juju could be a very big weapon, maybe if his head's on straight, if he picks up the system well. I'll tell you right now, my guy is Sky Moore. That guy, I'm a college guy. That's my true passion is college football. Sky Moore is one of the best route runners I've ever seen at the college level, and that was at the lowly Western Michigan Broncos of the MAC. This dude could be a difference maker, and I really think that might be the guy that starts filling in some shoes as the season goes on. But both of those guys, I think they're kind of average, honestly.
But the one thing is, though, they're big.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives a jump ball guy. Kelsey, wrong side of 30 now. We could see him decline a little bit. So I think they could have some jump balls in the red zone type stuff. So I'm just really questioning this offense. I think they go to running the ball more. I don't think it's going to be as high tempo just because of the holes in the defense. Let's kind of jump into the schedule right now. They open up at Arizona. Again, we don't know what we're getting from Arizona, but I have that as a win.
I would go a win there. Yeah.
You know, they play the Chargers at home in the short week. I got that as a win.
A win as well.
Then they have 2 back-to-back games at the Colts and at the Bucks. I have them losing both.
Yeah, you talk about a spot to look out for. At Indy right there, the week before at Tampa Bay, That's a spot to look out for. I think they lose both of those games too, and I'm betting the Colts that week.
I agree 100%. Monday night at home primetime game against the Raiders. I think they win that game.
I think they do win that as well, but keep in mind the little heat between Buffalo and KC. That could be another spot to look ahead a little bit.
Because I have them losing to Buffalo. Buffalo has this spot absolutely circled, but it is kind of a look ahead spot, for the Chiefs. So I have them losing to Buffalo. The next game, I'm going to say, I think this 49ers game is a 50-50 game, because if Trey Lance is starting and struggles, that could be hard.
Yeah, I mean, this really could be about the point. Who do you think is going to start there? That's a good question.
I think for me, it's going to be Garoppolo. If it's going to be Lance, they would have said it by now. And he missed a whole year of football because of North Dakota State and sitting out. And I think that if it was going to be him, they would have said it by now.
Yeah, I think the problem that's kind of my thought process. I think they can't really go Lance because I don't think they have confidence in Lance to actually be good. And if you start a young quarterback and end up having to pull him before the season's over, that's a lot worse look than if you start Jimmy G and Trey Lance comes in and he doesn't perform well. So, yeah, that's kind of my thought process. But who knows what's going on in San Francisco at this point. It is a 50-50 game. I'd probably give it to the Chiefs.
Then they have the bye. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 wins going into the bye. After that, they play Tennessee. I'm going to give them the win there just because it's right after the bye. And Andy Reid is exceptional after the bye.
Yeah, every
gambler. Next game, they play the Jags. Again, if this Jags team is cooking, improvements on the offensive line, playmakers, Lawrence starts developing a little bit, talent on the defense, that could be a tough game. But I'm gonna give them the win there.
Interesting little spot there too.
Yeah, because they have the Chargers on deck, so that could be a good spot to fade them right there. Now, here's my thing. I think we have to absolutely hammer the Rams right here in week 12, because on deck they have the Bengals, and we know how that second half went. That game is absolutely circled. I think the game that you got to hammer the Rams that game, then you come back and take the Chiefs the next game. I
absolutely agree. You hammer the Rams. I'm kind of a Joe Burrow believer. I think the Chiefs team is obviously more talented, but I'm starting to get close to that level where I'm ready to put Burrow up there with what I said about Russ, what I said about Brady. Some people are just winners. It's not like Burrow isn't going to know this team's coming for him. You're over there. You're at Paul Brown Stadium. I think Burrow's ready for it.
Okay. All right. They did make a lot of improvements on the offensive line. Next game at Denver, I think they lose this game.
I think they lose it too. And then, 3 in a row on the road. Oof.
And I'll tell you what, this is something you may not know about me. I have three autographed jerseys hanging up right here in front of me. Number 1, best Lions quarterback ever, Matt Stafford. Number 2, best defensive lineman against the run ever, Vita Vea from the Bucs. Number 3, long neck himself, Davis Mills. So I'm a Davis Mills believer. I'll probably back the Texans there because I think the Texans with Lovie Smith's defense and how they're going to do it, run the ball, control the clock, I think they can keep that close. Reed has an excellent question right here. What are your thoughts on the Jaguars this year in general? Will Lawrence make a big jump in year 2 with Peterson, who did the same with Wentz way back when? I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the answer is definitely. Urban Meyer, anybody who knows football knew that was going to be a joke. The whole thing was more about him than it was about anything else, which is the worst thing you could get out of a head coach for a young quarterback, and especially a young quarterback with that much hype coming out of college. I think Doug Peterson, that's the perfect coach to have for him. I think it's going to work out phenomenally, and I think we're going to see him get better every single week.
I agree 100% because he's actually getting coaching. And The main thing, like you could tell last year, is when it got at a condensed field, that means inside the 20, one read, and then he just took off and run. So he didn't know how to read the field. I think having Peterson there is going to help him read the field. Back to the schedule. I mean, they have Houston and Seattle. I'm going to say they split those two. I'm going to be, you know what I mean? Like I could really see him losing at Houston.
When you don't have a good defense, you're susceptible to lose to anybody in the NFL, you know?
And then they play Denver at home. I'm going to say that's 50-50.
Yeah, I'll give them a win there.
And then, but I think they lose at the end of the year.
I think so as well.
I mean, I think at best case scenario for the Chiefs is 10 wins in my eyes. Realistic scenario, 7 to 8.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a team that's gonna be fringe playoffs. Now, if they get into the playoffs, be careful. But I think this is a team that's gonna be cutting it close.
I agree 100%. Guys, thanks for tuning in. I'd like to thank Mike from coming on. He is at GCG_wins on Twitter. He has a weekly podcast that comes out, breaks out down college football. Great breakdown of Conference USA, but I have to ask you, man, because I'm a Sun Belt. Am I crazy for my Georgia State future?
No, dude. Georgia State, that's the team that I have winning the Sun Belt this year. I'm all about Georgia State.
I love him. So make sure you give Mike a follow on Twitter at GCG_wins. Thank you, Gino, for sending in that bag, Colonial Downs. We will be back here next week. Make sure you tune in. Until then.